It's May 5th, 2015, 7 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors to order. And at this time, we'll have invocation by Pastor Todd Stockett at Trinity Family Center in Hudson here. So everybody rise, please.
Well, thank you. I bring you greetings, leaders and community leaders from Trinity Lutheran Church here in Hudson, our two campuses serving many families and kids from age 6 weeks old through age 14 so far. So a lot of things happening, and I'm just honored and humbled to be able to open us up in prayer. So if we would, let's pray. Father God, we in this room are grateful to you that you have carved out a slice of your planet that we call home here in the Hudson area, the St. Croix Valley area. And all of us, whether we're different faiths or creeds or ideas, we all want basically the same thing, God, to continue to make this place a wonderful place to live and to raise our families and to grow. Lord, I ask a blessing on this assembly. I thank you for the leadership gathered here in this place. I ask that you would guide them, continue to guide them with your spirit, and that you would just calm and bring clarity and guidance, Father, to the decisions that are on the table and the conversations that we will have here. Father, we thank you for your love, and we thank you for your grace and mercy you give to us in Jesus Christ. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. We'll say Pledge Allegiance now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We'll have roll call. Cindy? Everybody. And everyone is present tonight. We have the consent agenda. Approve that. Do I have approval of that tonight? Second by Scott Nelson. Is there any discussion? Any additions or corrections? Supervisor Babbitt?
Mr. Chairman, there was a small correction which I noticed on packet page 8. The phrase was the introduction of some materials from the Wisconsin Counties Association. So if we go to number 8 there, under announcements, Campbell announced the upcoming Sheriff's Office recognition and receipt of the Wisconsin Counties Association toolkit of what is counties. So I thought maybe we should change that to what are counties.
Okay.
I laughed when I read that. It sounds kind of nice that way, but I thought let's correct that small thing.
Okay.
What is counties?
Thank you. Is there any other corrections or additions? Not? We'll vote on that. That was unanimous, all yeses. Thank you. At this time, we have the public comment part of the agenda, and we'll open it for public comment. I have 2 people here that have signed up for public comment, and I guess it doesn't make any difference which one starts. I can
Go ahead.
I'll just pick them. We'll let Tim Sackett start first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tim Sackett, and I live on 11th Street in the city of Hudson. And I am here to comment about the bylaws change, the idea of changing the bylaws about the prayer invocation when the county board meeting starts. And I am part of the rotation of pastors who speaks here with invocations. There's currently 15 of us, and it's my role here to schedule each one of them and call them and make sure and get the information to Cindy. And so I take a greater role than most in the invocation. And I've tried to spread it out to county churches, not just Hudson churches. So we are including Somerset and New Richmond and elsewhere. And with the current schedule, each pastor would speak once a year or once every other year. So it's not a heavy duty that we have, but it's certainly a privilege that we have. And so I just want to comment that in the process of this coming up over the last few months, I don't want to make any pretense among you that I know or our clergy people would know any more about this government system and how it operates. We're not here for any pretense that we would know more about it than what you do, and how the discussion about the invocation came about, nor any of the other procedure duties that you perform as elected members of the board. So with that, you have my respect, because you sit there and I don't, and I appreciate that. But you are part of the many reasons that I personally have enjoyed living and working in ministry in St. Croix County for 23 years. And again, I have no pretense about the immense amount of work that you have to accomplish. And so as pastors, we are sometimes, we're the ones that are usually labeled as the ones who work only a few hours a week, once on Sunday. So, which is not true. But with that said, here's what I've discovered about this debate about the invocation. Number one, I have found out through this that we are invited by the board to do this, and it's a service that we appreciate doing. And another thing I've learned is that what we are doing in this is not illegal. Not in the United States, not in the state of Wisconsin, and not in the county of St. Croix, so it is not illegal. And what we do is, I have found that what we're doing is not offensive. I have listened to committees and heard from board members that this is not offensive. So if it is not illegal and it is not offensive, then it comes down to, in my term, I'll just use one word, it's uncomfortable. And I don't see that as a reason for a vote to change just because it's perhaps uncomfortable. So I'm asking, please recommend that the language in the bylaws is clear to us all as clergy and community members, that when we appear here for the invocation, that we will be granted the privilege for which we've been called. Do not change anything about the invocation, and leave the language that it is an invocation. And I know that the discussion will be about adding a moment of silence, and our concern about any of the confusion is that if a pastor is here as scheduled, that there would be an option by the board to have a moment of silence. And that is what we're asking, not that the language be clear, that we would appear as we're scheduled and be given the privilege of speaking an invocation for the board. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have Michael Nestler. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my name's Mike Nieskus. I live in Hudson over on 5.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Roger. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke at the Administration Committee a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to be kind of brief. The invocation there's no legal basis, as Mr. Cox explained to the members of the committee, to change it. The Supreme Court decided nearly 30 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court, the invocations are appropriate. and don't violate any kind of constitutional standard. That court begins every session by saying, God protect this honorable court. And we just gave this Pledge of Allegiance, where we talked about one nation under God. So I don't think there's a real problem there. There's certainly no legal problem. And what an invocation is a request by an individual to have guidance, to have consideration, and for the members of the board here to look at their greater duty, the duties to these people. And that's what the invocation really is, a call to the greater duty and a request that they be guided by their better side, their better angels to speak. I think it's important that is a portion of the starting of every meeting to remind the members, and I don't think anyone here needs to hear that, but to remind the members that they have a greater duty. We may not all agree with what individual ministers say, but everyone who's on the board, every member of the public who comes, is certainly adult enough that if they actually disagree with the particular faith leader who's speaking, that they can respectfully absent themselves from it. But I think the call to your greater duty is important. I believe the invocation should stay. I don't believe it should be modified in any way. And I believe, as you heard last time, there's a number of persons in the community who spoke who agreed with that position. Finally, one further thing. I know that the minutes, this is on the agenda. I know the notation on the agenda said to contact your supervisors, Supervisor Kilwer. I did send you an email. I didn't get a response. That's why I signed up here. I didn't know one way or the other. But I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else have a public comment?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Waterman. I wanted to stop by tonight to introduce myself and the new county judge. I was appointed 3 weeks ago by Governor Walker, and I am very happy to be here. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity, but I wanted to come tonight just to introduce myself and share a few words with you. For the past 20 years, I have worked at the Mudge, Porter, Lundin, and Seguin law firm. My practice experience has been in civil litigation, civil trial work. I work with a lot of insurance companies and businesses, doing work with contracts and business disputes and that type of thing. And I was very happy in my career, but I believe, I really firmly believe, that at some point in all of our lives, we need to devote ourselves to public service. We need to give back to our communities. And when Judge Cameron announced earlier this year that he was retiring, I did a self-assessment on where I was in my life, where I was in my career, and decided this would be my chance to serve the public, to serve St. Croix County. Now, to get a job like this by appointment, the governor just doesn't pick up the phone and call up Mike Waterman. There's a very lengthy and very rigorous application process. And there were 7 other highly qualified applicants from this county. And we fill out very lengthy written applications. We submit writing samples. We submit letters of reference, professional references, letters of recommendation. And there's a screening committee that reviews them. They select some people or some individuals for interviews. And then as you advance along, you finally get an interview with the governor himself. I had the honor of interviewing with Governor Walker in late March. And then I waited for the call, and it finally came in, and he offered me the appointment, and I enthusiastically accepted that appointment. My work with the county will begin on May 20. And at that time, I'll be sent out of county to do some mentoring and to see how the judiciary works in other counties, to get a view from behind the bench and see how things work in Eau Claire and Dunn County and Chippewa Falls and so forth. But then I'll eventually return back to St. Croix County in the beginning of June and officially start my own calendar June 8. There will be a formal investiture ceremony. That's a formal swearing-in ceremony. That'll be on June 11th. It's a Thursday afternoon. We're looking at 4 o'clock. The investiture ceremony is open to the public, but there will be invitations sent out. So I would invite all of you to come if you're available. We'd love to have you. And I look forward to serving all of you and serving the people of St. Croix County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have any other public comment at this time? Is there anyone else like public comment? I will say it one more time. Anybody public comment? If not, we'll move on with the agenda. Thank you. And recognitions. Pat, I think I'll turn this over to you on the recognitions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we have 2 recognitions this evening. For the very first recognition, I'd like to call on our activities director from the health center, Cindy Prokash, who is going to introduce 2 members of St. Croix County, 2 citizens of St. Croix County who have spent many, many years volunteering, helping out at our nursing home health center. So I'd like to welcome Pauline and Ron Sigiersma, and Cindy will do a little introduction. So thank you and welcome.
They started in 1970 volunteering in the nursing home, a few years before me. Pastor John Van Summeren of the Christian Reformed Church in Baldwin asked his congregation if anyone would be interested in assisting with a prayer service at the county poor farm. That's what they called it back then. Ron and Pauline gladly accepted this calling and continued to do so until just this spring. Pauline stated that the general public at that time called it the poor farm. She does not remember when they started calling it the St. Croix Health Center. Ron and Pauline stated that they have many memories of the time spent over the past 45 years of volunteering. Volunteering was a family endeavor for their family. The couple stated that when they first started doing these services, they had 5 children that came with them. They had 3 teenagers, 1 preschool, and 1 newborn baby. The teenagers led the singing along with the members of their church. Pauline often accompanied the singing with her piano playing, while Ron led the worship time with song, scripture, and prayer. When they started this volunteer project, there were around 200 residents in the home, and an average of 50 to 60 residents attended their prayer services. At Christmas time, all the residents attending the service received a small gift from the Sigiersmas. As the years passed, even the grandchildren would start coming along on Sunday afternoons. Ron stated that they all got very close to the residents, and the children sometimes found it sad when one of their friends passed away. As a special treat, I remember them saying they stopped at the Dairy Queen on the way home. Ron, you'll be 83 this month?
Yep.
Okay.
One day.
In one day. And Pauline just turned 82. They continue to do volunteering in their community by visiting others in nursing homes, working in their church, and also by giving out Bibles for the Gideons to hotels and such places. We, at the St. Croix Health Center Nursing Home, have been very blessed over the past 45 years to have such giving and loving volunteers to share their Christian faith with our family. Ron and Pauline have been very diligent in their volunteer work and have set a wonderful example to the generations that follow. Volunteerism is alive and well. Statistics show that new people are joining these ranks daily, and many have been encouraged by watching family and friends do just the same as the Sigiersma family have for us. It is with our thanks and our gratitude that we take this opportunity to acknowledge all that they have shared and given to us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So on behalf of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors and all the citizens of St. Croix County, we would like to honor Ron and Pauline for their many, many years of service out at our health center. And what an appropriate evening to be honoring you as we take up a couple very important matters later on in our agenda with the health center and the future of the health center. So Ron, congratulations and thank you. And Pauline, thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Cindy.
And we have one more, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next introduction is actually one of our department heads who you as a board confirmed at last month's meeting. And Chad Wolski is the director of the Child Support Agency, and Chad was actually out of town at our last board meeting when you confirmed his appointment. So those of you that have not met Chad Wolski, here he is, and Chad actually is no stranger to many of us. He's been employed by St. Croix County for the last 12 years and 10 years in the Child Support Agency. He started off as a fiscal employee in the department and worked his way up and then was a child support specialist and now is the director, based on your confirmation at last month's meeting. Two of the things that I think are interesting of note, and I'll have Chad explain what this is, but he's been instrumental statewide in terms of his help with the Child Support Agency. In 2014, the Child Support Agency was recognized by the state of Wisconsin for the child support performance. And so I believe Chad, on behalf of the department, was presented this award at your last statewide meeting.
Yeah, the Director's Dialogue on April 16th of this year.
Yeah, so congratulations on that. And then also Chad is working on a kind of a neat initiative. It's called Click and Pay. And I'll have him kind of explain what that is. So we don't need to confirm Chad's appointment tonight because you already did that, but thought it would be appropriate to introduce him formally to the board. So congratulations, Chad, on this and your appointment, and he's off to a great start with the Child Support Agency. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Pat.
Yep.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to lead the department. I've been a St. Croix County resident for over 30 years, and like Pat said, with the St. Croix County for the last 12 years. It's really the staff up in our agency that makes it possible to meet our performance standards. We've really fostered a culture of innovation and expected excellence in our department. And we continue to try and come up with new innovative ways to increase collections and provide better customer service to the clients that we serve. In 2013, Lisa's back here as well. She was awarded State Worker of the Year just a couple of years ago, and it's people like her that make it possible for the agency to really run. Pat said there's a couple ideas that I have for the agency. Click and Pay, just giving more ways for our clients to make child support payments, and also looking to make electronic case files to reduce paper and increase efficiency in our office. So I just appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself to everyone on the board that I don't know and to reintroduce to the people that I already know on the board. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chad. You keep up the good work. We have some appointments here now we have to do. Pat, we'll turn
Yes.
that over to you again.
Yep, I'd like to offer for the board's consideration reappointment of citizen member Dave Nickum for the Board of Adjustment for a term of 2015 through 2018. Dave is a current member of the Board of Adjustment, and I'm recommending his reappointment.
I need a motion to, you want to read them
Can do them all if you'd prefer. The second is the reappointment of County Board Supervisors Howard Novotny and Sheila Liebfried to the Health and Human Services Board for a term of 2015 through 2018. Both Supervisor Novotny and Supervisor Liebfried are current members of the Health and Human Services Board and offering their reappointment for board consideration. And then lastly, for the Health and Human Services Board, reappointment of citizen member Deb Rasmussen, who is a registered nurse and has served on the Health and Human Services Board for many years. Those are the appointments for the board's consideration.
I'd like to make a motion to approve all four.
Motion made, seconded. You get those, Cindy? So we have a motion made and seconded to approve these. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll vote. It was unanimous, 19 votes yes, so thank you.
Thank you, board members. Lastly, just under appointments, I wanted to announce that Supervisor Osnes has submitted his resignation from the Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. And so at next month's meeting, I'd like to forward a county board supervisor for appointment to the Economic Development Corporation. We're currently represented by Supervisor Ring and Supervisor Schochner and Supervisor Osnes, who is stepping off of the EDC board, so we'll have an opening. If you are interested in serving on the EDC board, please contact me between now and next month's meeting, and I'll forward a name to the board for your consideration at next month's meeting. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now you have your administration report.
Yes, and I'll keep it brief because we have a very lengthy meeting. The financial reports are in the packet. Bob Middett, Interim Finance Director, is present to answer any questions you have on the financial report.
Are there any questions on the financial report?
Seeing none, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll
Yep.
move on.
Yep.
Annual department reports. We have the Facilities Department, Jim Ellsbury.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Last year was a busy year. This year is going to be busier with building a new health center and dementia unit. And just wanted to go over the highlights of the report is we have been working with HHS staff and getting them relocated to the new building. That move went really well. We're still in the process of tweaking some things. We just went through the annual last-minute punch list items. So officially, we'll be in just a short period of time. So we've worked with other departments in the county and also with the supervisors. We're currently working on energy savings and also working on getting us off of the grid, if you will. So it's sustainability, energy savings. It's a big process that I'm looking to get into next as far as facilities and what we're all about. So if there's any questions,
Supervisor Schoberg.
Jim, the time period for your report, I mean, I think it's based upon the 2014 calendar year.
Correct.
Could you include that in next year's report so we just know the exact time period?
Yep.
The annual report is listed as the 2015.
It's not working.
So
A little confusing.
Yeah, it brings us up.
Content is the other way.
Gotcha. Bless you.
Any other questions? Supervisor Hanson.
I'd like to know what you felt your biggest challenges were in the past year and how you overcame them, or what your challenges you're facing the next year. What's on your plate that maybe is really going to be the biggest problem that you're facing?
I think one of the hardest things that we face is we're pulled in a lot of directions at the same time. There's big projects going on, and then you have the day-to-day. As most of you found, I think you've all met Brent. He's facility manager. That will help me out greatly because I've been wearing two hats for a while now. It's difficult to keep all the plates spinning and respond to individual requests. It's hard. There's a lot of area here in the county. I kind of reached out and worked with Ellen and the Parks Department to improve the parks. We're trying to bring the county up to a higher standard with all of the buildings. And so it's just hard getting your arms around everything in a short period of time. Part of the planning and looking forward to the future with the energy conservation, that's something that I've been doing for years and I've been trying to get going. And I think that there's enough people and enough desire to get that moving here as well. So that's going to be my biggest challenge going forward, is getting that going and getting the importance of that seen so we can get it moving.
Thanks, Jim. I'm looking forward to the energy conservation program. It sounds like it's going to be great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your help.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Jim. We'll move on to our IT department, and John Allegro, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I prepared a presentation for tonight. A while back, I presented the Information Technology Strategic Plan to the Administration Committee, and it was recommended by Commissioner Berkey that or Supervisor Berkey, that I bring that to the county board. So I'll do that tonight and touch on a few accomplishments we've had over the last 12 months, well, 2014. When I first came in here, I read through the mission statement that Tom Boron had prepared for the IT department, and it was a good mission statement, but I felt that there was a few things I would like to have changed in it. So I went ahead and I rewrote that, presented it with my team at a staff meeting that we had, and it got fairly good reception, so I adopted it. Our mission statement is to partner with county departments and state and local agencies to plan, implement, and support the technology needs of the county and its citizens, while providing a comprehensive, secure, sustainable, and highly available computing environment. And I think it hits the nail on the head with what we're trying to achieve there. We've got a summary of responsibilities. The IT department is responsible for providing technology services, devices, and solutions that enable St. Croix County staff to function efficiently and effectively. And I think that one hits the nail on the head, too. Some of the select goals and objectives that we've achieved this year, some of these happened before I was brought on in June of last year. They did the boardroom technology improvements. I think they did a fine job. It's had its issues, but we've worked through some of them, and things seem to be working fairly well right now. So they opened up the service center. That's the week I started. I was commissioned by fire, and it actually turned out real good. I got to see my team at their best, and I was happy with what I saw. So, we've added 2 new positions. We created a fully staffed help desk, which was much needed here, and I think it's much appreciated by the department heads and the staff here at St. Croix County. We modernized some aging equipment at the government center. The ag building data center move, we migrated all the county's computer equipment out of one data center so that the ag center could have their own. We recycled more than 20,000 pounds of computer waste here. It was stockpiled everywhere, And my first thing I wanted to do was reclaim that space and use it effectively, and we did that, so some dust floating around. We centralized PC and laptop asset management. So what we did was, instead of having departments purchase their PCs separately and have to budget for all that, we moved all that budget dollars into the IT department, and now we have them on a replacement cycle where PCs and laptops, and all computer equipment for that matter, is replaced on a schedule, so that we're never dealing or contending with out-of-date and out-of-service equipment and just stringing it along by Band-Aiding it. So far to date, well, actually, as of January 1st of 2015, we had replaced about 20% of the county's computers, and we plan on replacing about 20% per year. So every 5 years, we'll have a full cycle of county computer equipment. Some future opportunities I see are some staff training opportunities. We've already taken advantage of a few of that, for a few opportunities for some of our staff. We're in the middle of deploying SharePoint right now to replace our county intranet, which will also make it available to county board members as needed. Deploying Office 365 features. Skype for Business is a video conferencing solution that we'll be able to use between our buildings and with other agencies outside of the county. It's included in a licensing program that we bought from Microsoft for all our staff. So we're just going to take advantage by deploying that and hopefully save some travel time and allow people to attend remotely, especially with inclement weather. We're consolidating and renegotiating contracts with some vendors. We're working to eliminate some leases on some technology needs that we had in the past that are no longer needed, and we're working with those vendors to maybe substitute those leases for other products that they offer, because we don't have a need for what they were initially purchased for. We have a fiber optic network in the county. Our buildings are connected by fiber optic networking cable, and there's a chunk that's missing between Hammond and New Richmond, and we're looking to complete that this year. The vendor believes they can have that in by June or July. We'll have a full ring around all our buildings. We should be fully redundant at that point, and we should have automatic failover. If one of those links gets cut, the traffic should be able to turn and go the other way, and we'd never have another building go offline. Talking about having the county website rebuilt, it's a decent website, but I think it could use some improving, and I think there's some people in this room that probably agree with that. And then we're looking at an ERP software solution, which would replace about 4 or 5 different software packages from independent vendors that we have right now, and hopefully roll it all into one, and that would cover HR, finance, employee performance, and there's a time and attendance, and maybe 1 or 2 other features in there. So we're really looking forward to that. It'll definitely cut down on the maintenance that we have to do from a system-wide level, where we'll be supporting 1 major system versus 5 or 6 little systems. With that, I'm going to roll into the IT strategic plan. I won't take too long with this, but there is a lot in here. If you want to review it, it's in your packet, and I actually have a full version of this that can be emailed out if you would like the full copy. When I went to write the IT strategic plan, I identified some goals that we would like to achieve. They were centralized county information. We want to design a mobile technology platform, align IT with the needs of the county and its citizens, upgrade network and server infrastructure, recruit, retain, and develop a highly skilled IT staff, create awareness of the cost of IT, establish a life cycle plan, and reduce system downtime by controlling changes. To centralize the county information, we currently have 6 file servers that are geographically dispersed throughout the county. We figured that could be consolidated down to 3 file servers. We would be migrating a majority of our data into the SharePoint environment, which would make it available to everybody, and the SharePoint environment would be redundant. It's actually going to be housed in the Microsoft cloud, so it would be off-site. So it would be fully redundant in data centers spread out across the United States. Phase 1 of the SharePoint rollout, this says it's currently being initiated. We actually completed Phase 1 about 3 weeks ago, and we're negotiating the contract for Phase 2 right now, which is where they actually build the SharePoint site. We're hoping to have that up mid to late summer. So look for that as it comes out. The full rollout would be incorporating all the other departments. The first phase incorporates all the departments that touch other departments, so that's the admin suite. So it's facilities, HR, finance, IT, corporate counsel, and the admin team themselves. We all have, that group has forms and workflows that touch almost everybody in the county, and we wanted to complete that first, get all the functionality that exists in the current intranet, and get that built in there, and then we have our foundation to bring in the other departments, and we'll be addressing those one at a time or two at a time, depending on how complicated their department is. We wanted to design a mobile technology platform. We currently maintain VPN tunnels. They're an administrative challenge. We change hardware, we upgrade PCs, we have to make sure these IP addresses are the same. We actually had that last week where we switched over to a different internet provider, and we had to make sure that all the people that were using Service Center VPN connections had the new IP address or the new server name. We also were maintaining 3 Citrix farms. We're currently engaged in a Citrix consolidation project. We're bringing that all down to 1. It's in final testing right now, and we're actually looking to migrate people out of the old environment into the new environment starting next week. Citrix allows us to use any device anytime from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. We can increase capacity and redundancy, and we can publish more applications in our Citrix environment than we currently have. And as demand grows, we increase the capacity rapidly to meet the rollout. We're going to align IT with the county and its citizens. Comprehensive IT department includes a DMZ. A DMZ is a controlled access to the internal network. It allows hosting external applications without exposing the internal network. This is a drawing of a DMZ. On the left, you have the internet and a connected user from home. In the middle there, between the 2 red bricks, is our firewall in our DMZ area, and that allows us to put servers out in that DMZ. And the users from the outside go into that DMZ, but they never reach into our network. We're able to function with them and communicate with them and transact business with them without ever having them actually enter the county's network, which provides a buffer zone for us. We wanted to upgrade the network and server infrastructure. We're currently maintaining an incomplete fiber ring. I already talked about that. We are reviewing support contracts on the equipment that is within useful life cycle with our vendors and renewing the support contracts that are needed. The board has authorized funding to maintain this critical infrastructure component, and I thank you guys for that. We've got the full support of the admin suite and the board, and it's really helpful in my position. And thank you again. The server infrastructure is in need of a lifecycle management and a unified platform, and we've actually already deployed a unified platform for the servers. St. Croix County's WAN connectivity, this is a diagram of what we've currently got for our fiber ring. The red dash is the area that is not completed, that we're looking to complete this summer, and that will give us a complete ring around the county. The green line, we're currently augmenting that dash line with a microwave connection that sits in standby and waits for any piece of that ring to go down. And once that goes down, the microwave connection kicks in and fills that void, but it's a slow connection compared to having the fiber. Staffing, we've added 2 new positions. Again, I thank you. We've had 4 new faces added to the IT department. We've established training goals and positioned staff where they are strongest. This is your IT team. Top left, we've got Brandon. Going right, we've got Jason, he's our newest member. Marion in the middle, myself there, Dave Schatz. Going back over to the bottom left, we've got Kim, Mary, Annette, and Chauncey. And then Paul wasn't here the day of the photo, so one of our talented IT staff photoshopped him in, peeking around the corner. So that's Paul Yang. He's on the service desk. He usually answers the calls. He leads that team of service desk professionals. See, IT guys do have a sense of humor. We also wanted to create the awareness of the cost of IT to the departments. We wanted them to know what the things are costing that they're asking for, so they could have buy-in with us. They're often overlooked by the consumer's IT. They should be fully aware of the costs. Their department should be able to fund the technology projects they request. I feel that if it's free, they're just going to ask for stuff, try it out. If it doesn't fit, they're going to dump it and look for something else. So I think if they have buy-in on it, they'll have a little bit of accountability, and they'll think twice about what they're asking for. We're currently rolling out a chargeback program to the county. physical and server virtual costs. So if a department needs a new application that requires a server, we're going to try and pass that cost on to them, which will help offset the amount of money we need to ask for during our budget cycle. I know it's moving from one hand to another, but it still creates accountability on their end. Licensing costs, storage costs, infrastructure improvement costs. So we're trying to figure out all those pieces and kind of run IT as a business. That's kind of the goal here. So, it allows us to focus on designing an environment that meets the needs of the county and its citizens. We've established a life cycle plan for computer equipment and replacements. It's developed. We needed to develop and fund a life cycle plan for hardware based on industry best practices. Keeps devices current and reduces trouble calls. This program includes desktop computers, which are at 5 years, laptop computers, which are at 4, tablet computing devices are 3 to 5 years, depending on how long the manufacturer supports security updates for them. Monitors are 10 years or until they fail. I would like to add that they're also until they don't handle the resolution of the computer and they just aren't good on the eyes at that point. So. Network hardware, this is the stuff you guys don't see, but all your cables connect to. That's 5 to 7 years, depending on vendor support, and then servers are 5 years. The IT department is currently budgeting, and we try to adjust that budget as needed for future years going forward. We wanted to reduce unscheduled downtime. There was a lot of changes to IT servers and networking equipment before I got here that would cause unexpected interruptions to the environment during the day, which caused lost productivity, and we pretty much put a stop to that immediately when I got in here, requiring my staff to come to me when there was a big change like that was requested by either a vendor or a department to fix an issue with their application. It's worked out well, and we frequently get together to look at these changes that are requested, and we meet and we talk about what other systems they'll affect, and hopefully we catch all of them. Occasionally a system slips through that we didn't catch, but the next time we won't let that happen. So, we informally started that in August of 2014, shortly after I started. We're fully deploying that, including change management, incident management, problem management, and the help desk by summer of 2016. In conclusion, the St. Croix County IT Department is in transition. We're working towards excellence. We're trying to maintain a balance between cost-effective business solutions and maintaining a secure and comprehensive IT infrastructure. We want to create awareness among consumers of IT so they can be fully aware of the associated costs. We want to create realistic expectations of IT resources and the staff. I see an opportunity to build off our successes and learn from our past experiences. And if we continue to receive the support of administration and the county board, we stand to position the St. Croix County Information Technology Department as a leader and innovator of IT in the state, or at the state and local levels. Any questions? I spun through that really fast.
Supervisor Kiesler?
Thanks for your report, John. You've done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Excellent work in a very short period of time. In terms of the Skype, I've got two questions. One is on the Skype. Do you know, is that secure or HIPAA compliant so that it could be used for telehealth in the future?
I don't know the answer to whether or not it's HIPAA. I know that it runs over an HTTPS connection, which is a secure connection.
Okay.
So it is encrypted in that tunnel. I don't know, depending on the environment you'd be using it in, obviously, because you're going to have video and audio going on, you'd have to be in a closed area if you didn't want to expose that information. If I was one-on-one with a patient, there's stuff going on around me, I don't know that I would feel comfortable doing that. But if you were in a meeting room, that's a possibility. And we can look further into that and check with DHS at the federal level, I guess, and find out what they say.
Okay. Yeah. The second question is, what are we putting out on the cloud? And is that going to make it more or less secure with the level of hacking that's going on today?
So it's Microsoft Office 365. We're going to be publishing our intranet on the cloud. It'll be secure. It'll require a login to get to. Again, it's run over an encrypted tunnel. The use of Office 365 was approved at the state level in the state of Wisconsin in the last 6 months, I believe. And what Microsoft has done is they've guaranteed and set up data centers exclusively for government tenants. So our data will only sit on servers that are resided on by other government entities. It was approved at the state level for use by local agencies and state agencies in the state of Wisconsin, and Microsoft ensures us that it's safe.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Hanson?
John, I echo what Supervisor Kiesler said. You've done an incredible job, and I'm wholly impressed.
Thank you.
The question that I wrote down that has me concerned as much as anything is exactly what Kiesler said, is how secure is the cloud? What I'm worried about is we have a great deal of personal information, and if we're holding information in the cloud in places where just government information is held, isn't that going to just be a big target for somebody who wants to hack? Here's a government site, and there's a lot of governments here. Come and have it. It's concerning to me. Can we do something that goes above and beyond the minimum, what the state's requiring and what Microsoft is promising? And if so, what?
Well, it's a service offering by Microsoft. It's penetration tested. They call it pen testing against intrusion. It's at Microsoft's site, so they'd actually be hacking through Microsoft to get to our site. So it's really not, it doesn't sit out there as a, hey, here's a red flag, come and get me. We can delve into it a little deeper, I guess, and check with Microsoft and see if there's anything else we can do. You know, it's only as secure as our people. We can't give out our passwords. We can't share. We need to take precautions on that. We don't leave our sessions unlocked when we leave our desk. And I think our staff here at the county are very good at doing that. So I'm impressed with what I've seen.
I don't mean any disrespect to the staff at all.
Oh, absolutely
It's
not.
it's the hackers who I don't trust.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with you. Yes, we can look into it further and just make sure that if there's anything we can do, we will.
Are there any other questions? Supervisor Berkey?
Had a question back on future opportunities when you talked about ERP software.
Correct.
And clarify, and I may not, did we not buy some software, extensive software for the financial package this year? And when you talk about new software for HR and administration, how does that work together, synchronize, or is it a total new package?
Well, I'm not sure what we bought for Alio. Was it the?
No, I think what Supervisor Berkey is referring to is the monies that were
Oh, the Microsoft
budgeted
licensing?
for the financial software,
Oh, correct.
I believe. Yep.
Oh, I don't.
So maybe just a brief
on that?
touch
Sure.
on that, where we're at with that.
So we're currently interviewing, obviously, we had some interruptions because of finance director position and HR director position. So we've been augmenting, myself, Bob Middet, and Kristen Ziliak have been meeting biweekly. We've been interviewing vendors who can help us through the RFP process, selecting and vendor selection, and possibly help us through the actual implementation of the project. We're interviewing them right now. We haven't spent any of that money yet. But we're definitely using that to get the project rolling. And you know, the amount that they asked for, I don't know that that's going to be a comprehensive amount, but we have to look at it going forward and see where we're at, maybe after we get an RFP back.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. And thank you also for the comprehensive report. It was excellent.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Rain?
So follow up to the last question. An ERP system, I thought, would incorporate all of those elements. So are you saying you're doing a standalone financial package?
No, it would be a full ERP solution, which would have all those modules in it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Stratner?
This is more, not really a question, it's just I've been a part of the pilot program for the next devices that are going to be replacing our current computers for the county. And I've had this for a month, and I'll be turning it over to Mr. Allegro, and we're looking for someone else who wants to be a part of the pilot program to see what we're looking for and what we're looking at using in the next cycle. So anybody who's interested in trying this, the Microsoft Surface out that we might be getting.
Just let me know if you're interested in it, and we have to take a day just to clean that one up and get it back to new again before we hand it off. But if somebody's interested in piloting it for a few weeks, we can get it all set up for them and have you meet with Jason, and he'll show you how it all works.
Any other questions? Supervisor Berkey?
I wondered if there's staff here, other than John, if you maybe could introduce them.
Sure. I saw Kim Dupre. in the staff, stand up. Come on, you're blushing already. And Annette, did she run out the door already? She did? Oh, Annette ran out the door. Anyone else? No, that's it. That's it. Welcome.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, John.
Welcome.
Good report.
Thanks.
We'll move on to our new business here and old business. We got a resolution approving amendment to Town of Hudson zoning ordinance 105-12.B.51. Supervisor Ring.
I would like to move that we adopt the resolution approving the amendment to the Town of Hudson zoning ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
Supervisor Berkey. It's open for discussion.
Just to give a quick overview of what it's about, the Town Board of Hudson has approved a change to its zoning ordinance. It's a text change, which allows sales, service, and rental of compact construction equipment. Anytime when the county has a zoning ordinance, so anytime a town in the county has a change in their ordinance, the county needs to act on that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Any more discussion? No other discussion? Well, ready? We have a motion and a second on the floor, so if there's no further discussion, we will vote on this at this time. Thank you. That was unanimous, all 19 yes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next resolution to incorporate Town of Richmond Outdoor Recreation Plan into the St. Croix County Outdoor Recreation Plan. Move back to Supervisor Ring.
I move adoption of incorporating the Richmond Town Recreation Plan into the county plan.
Okay, do I have a second? Supervisor
Second?
Berkey? We have a motion and a second. Would you like to update us on that?
Yes, as you all know, the St. Croix County has an outdoor recreation plan, and part of the reason for having that plan is to just put your vision in writing. What do you want to accomplish, when, where, and why? We also have a practice of inviting any local unit of government within the county to do that, to have the county adopt their plan. The main benefit of incorporating those other plans into our county plan is that when they're seeking funding, it can be considered more of a regional plan that's coordinated outside its own boundaries. And so that's of benefit to them, and we think it's also an advantage to the county.
Thank you.
We have, just a note, I think there are 8 other local units of government whose plans we have already incorporated into ours.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor. So if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on this resolution. We have 18 yeses and 1 no. Thank you. We'll move on to number 3, which is a resolution proposed 2015-2017 state budget bill requiring drug testing of adults without children who are receiving food share and/or Badger Care Plus. And who? Supervisor Babbitt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was a resolution sponsored by Health and Human Services Board. We discussed it in depth as one of several different issues related to Governor Walker's budget proposal, and I would move for the board to approve the resolution as written.
Okay. And second, Supervisor Troutner, second that. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, any questions? If there's no discussion, no questions, we have a motion and a second on the floor. If there are no questions, we'll vote on this resolution. We have 16 yeses, 3 noes. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to number 4 here on the resolutions. Resolution approving 2015 budget amendments. That's Supervisor Schachner, you want to take that one?
I'll make a motion to approve these budget amendments. From my understanding, they're primarily moving money from one account to another account, so that way everything comes in alignment and under a new funding source. As with the rentals from the USDA and St. Croix Industries building, the one that has the biggest change is pay for performance, but that is due to addressing prior years' pay for performance, how much was budgeted for them, and actually fulfilling the full budget amount that should be in the pay for performance.
Do I have a second to this motion?
Second.
Supervisor Gosness?
Just wanted to, are you voting?
Go ahead, we're open for discussion. We've got a motion and a second on the floor.
Just not to clarify, you did an awesome job. Just wanted to bolster, add a little bit to it. This is really kind of fiscal maintenance or house cleaning for the pay for performance. If you see in your packet, there is a informational piece that shows since pay for performance inception, what was budgeted, what was balanced at the end of the year. And so what the administration committee is recommending is the establishment of a separate pay for performance fund so that throughout since 2012 and each year going forward, we'll be able to track exactly what was budgeted and what was actually spent within the year. And then that fund balance will remain and carry forward. And so what the committee is recommending is that the balance at the end of 2014 be transferred over into the separate pay for performance fund, along with the dollars that were budgeted for 2015. And then, as Supervisor Schachner explained, the second amendment is for some tables for UW Extension, which were anticipated in 2014. The order was in late, and the tables came in after the first of the year. So we're transferring those dollars for those tables. And then the last two are for the ESR and the USDA lease. Transfer of rent payments to offset expenditures for both the ESR and the USDA leases. This requires a 2/3 vote of the board, because it's a budget amendment. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Kiesler?
During the admin committee, I was in support of this. One of the things I like is that it very cleanly outlines what pay for performance will be budgeted and costing the county. At that time, I asked if our interim finance director could get us numbers on the gross wage in comparison to the pay for performance allotted, so that we could get a percentage of what that is. And wondering, I haven't received communication back, wondering if those numbers have been established, or if
I think they have been.
They'll be coming forth at the admin committee.
I think Bob can address that question. I think he's prepared to answer it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yes, Chair and Supervisors, the 2015 budgeted wages for all departments except for highway were $23,998,000. Highway wages were budgeted for $4,387,000. We backed out the wages related to most employees in the health center and law, which are not eligible for P4P this go-around. That is an amount of $6,924,000. So therefore, the total wages are $21,462,000 with a P4P budget that would be the balance in that newly established fund of $826,000. That would be about 3.85% of total wages.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob, before you sit down, I've got one question for you on the USDA rent. Are we going to keep that in a separate account, or are we going to show the rents coming in for revenue to finance, and then the expenditures, is that also, or not finance, to facilities? And are we going to show expenses for that building come out of finances or facilities as well?
Yes, within the facilities department, if you will, for accounting purposes, we have, I believe, 7 kind of, let's call them sub-departments. This is really creating an additional one. And that department, or that sub-department, will have a revenue account to accept those rents in. And then it has a couple of different expense accounts, so we can track the costs of primarily the leasehold improvements that were made or maintenance items that are being paid from those rents. So it's just a better way of matching the revenues and expenses that pertain to the USDA rents. It's still going to happen within the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor, so if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the resolution. That's all yes, thank you. And I'm going to ask now if there's any objection to swapping 5 and 6 around and doing number 6, the resolution on the bonding first. Is there any objection to that? If there's no objection, we'll do the resolution authorizing the borrowing of not to exceed $20 million to provide the issuance of sale of general obligation bonds, therefore, and I'll need a motion to that effect. Supervisor Schrockner has a motion. Do I have a second? Supervisor Berkey? Floor is open for discussion. Supervisor Nielsen? No. No, stay sitting. Please.
I have a question for all of you who plan to vote in favor of this resolution. If I could prove to you, to your satisfaction, that there is no need for the 40-bed CBRF assisted living residents that are contained in this resolution, would you vote to delay this decision? At the Committee of the Whole meeting on April 30th, the board was provided with an electronic document on computer titled St. Croix Health Center, New Richmond, Wisconsin, Market Study Report, April 1st, 2015. This document was not discussed at the meeting and is not included in today's meeting documents. In the executive summary, on page 3 of this report, under a section titled Assisted Living Conclusions, and this is the CBRF intermediate care, the following bullet point is found. Quote, the market demand model for the market rate assisted living beds suggested that for the short term, next year or two, the current capacity is meeting the needs. This is in part due to the new facilities that are currently under construction planned in the area. For the period 2015 to 2020, The model for the market rate beds suggested that by 2020, there will be enough pent-up demand and growth in the senior populations to fill an additional 40 beds. So, we are going to completely gut and renovate our existing nursing home that is operating efficiently at or near capacity into a 2-story, 40-bed intermediate care facility that our own market study says is not needed, in the hope that someday there will be a need because, quote, the model suggests that there may be a need by 2020. For this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled. We are about to put this county into debt for $20 million plus healthcare facility without any idea if the public supports what we are about to do. It has been stated in this body more than once during the last year that the public supports the building of this healthcare facility. This is not true. In the advisory referendums of 2008 and 2012, the public was asked, should St. Croix County continue to operate a public nursing home if property tax dollars are needed to fund its operation? This is not at all what we are doing. Instead of continuing to operate a public nursing home, we are closing and renovating the existing home into intermediate care apartments and building a new nursing home, as well as building a 10-bed dementia crisis stabilization facility. The public has never been asked if they wanted a healthcare complex in New Richmond. We could have done an advisory referendum for what we are actually attempting to do. Or at least, we could have done a direct mailing to county residences detailing our plans. For this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled. At the Ad Hoc Health Center Construction Committee regular meeting, February 24th, legal counsel Scott Cox discussed a licensing issue with the project related to the Wisconsin Family Care reimbursements for skilled care as well as intermediate care residents under CBRF. That is, that the facility as planned may not qualify for reimbursements. Our financial forecast for the facility is based on some of the beds for skilled care as well as intermediate care being funded by Wisconsin Family Care. Scott then stated that he intends to retain an attorney who is an expert in the field and stated that it would take several months before we would have a definitive answer. The board has not been given an update on this important issue that would render this facility very expensive for the county to operate. For this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled. The most current version of the financial forecast for this project was provided to the board at the Committee of the Whole meeting last Thursday, April 30th, and was presented by Larry Lester of Wipfli CPAs and Consultants. That document is titled, listen, St. Croix Healthcare Center Draft Financial Forecast. We don't even have a final version of the financial forecast, and we are going to vote tonight to indebt this county to the tune of $20 million. For this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled. There is a reason that private businesses are more successful than governments when they enter into a new business venture. If a business were to take on this project, they would put some effort into assessing risk, principally by using something called financial modeling. That is, they would calculate the effect on the bottom line when the forecasted volumes are off by some amount, say 20% or 50%. It is a simple matter to put these values into a financial model to get the projected bottom line. This could have easily been done. In fact, the county has a full-time risk analyst who could work with Wipfli to perform these calculations. This is a serious oversight. For this reason, this resolution should be tabled. Most current projection of average occupancy in the Dementia Crisis Stabilization Facility was presented to the board by Larry Lester of Wipfli at the Committee of the Whole meeting back on March 30th. That study projects that this 10-bed facility will get 9 new referrals a month and each resident will stay for 30 days, giving the facility an average occupancy of 9. An average occupancy of 9 out of 10 beds should be considered at or even above capacity for a facility where residents have such a short stay. There is always a time lapse between when a room is vacated and when a new resident moves in. The projection that this facility will operate at capacity from the day it is open and that residents will stay 30 days is pure fiction, as evidenced by the performance of other dementia crisis stabilization facilities in this area. There is such a facility just 25 miles down the road from Richmond at Amory, which consistently operates below average and where residents stay on average just under 10 days, not 30 days. If residents stay an average of 10 days instead of 30 days being projected, our average occupancy becomes 3, not 9. Here's a good place to do some financial modeling. What would be the effect on the bottom line when the average occupancy is 3 instead of 9 and our revenue is only a third of what we projected? Further, if I was a spouse or a child of a dementia patient that needed stabilization, why would I send them to a facility that keeps them away from their home for 30 days when I can put them in a facility that has a long history of service and keeps their residents for just 10 days before returning the family back to their home? For this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
I'd like to finish if I could. I got about one more paragraph. The existing skilled care will be completely gutted to create a 40-bed intermediate care facility. That is a replacement of all windows, partial replacement of the exterior, a new roof, totally new heating and ventilation system, as well as new floors throughout. And on top of this, a full bath must be built into every one of the 40 units. Further, a 2-story facility is not as desirable as one that is all on one floor, making it difficult for us to compete with other intermediate care facilities in the area that are on one floor. And for this reason alone, this resolution should be tabled.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Troutner?
I just posed the question towards, well, let me ask the question then. You've brought it forward many times that the item should be tabled, so are you making the motion that this be tabled?
I would like to move at this time that the motion be tabled.
Motion made and seconded by Keebler. Motion by Nielsen. Supervisor Troutner?
Speaking towards tabling this item, I am not for it. The people of this county have asked multiple times, or actually we have asked the people of the county multiple times should we move forward with such a project to develop a nursing home. What came out of the referendums was yes. What was presented to us was how to make this program financially viable. And that is what the goal was. When we fought to get this off the levy, the plan moving forward was to make this financially viable. We now have that. And we have a program in front of us that could be a model for the state. And now we have it in front of us, and for us to step away from that is just slapping every representative who voted for us to move forward with it in the face. We need to practice some political spine and say we're going to make a decision.
Supervisor Hanson?
I'd like to address the thought that a private business can do a better job of running an entity such as a nursing home. Nearly all nursing homes are nonprofit. Nonprofits are not businesses. They're corporations, but they are nonprofits, which is against the definition of capitalism. We do a wonderful job taking care of the people who are at risk, at need, people who don't know how to take care of themselves sometimes. Our health center is a stellar example of care. It's something that I'm proud of. 3 generations of my family have lived and died in that facility, and to suggest that a company can come in, take over, and run it better than the people who've done such a wonderful job in our county for the last, 100 years is, I
Supervisor
guess,
Hanson, I'm going to have to cut this off. I think this is a non-debatable motion
I apologize, Chair.
to table. So at this time, we have a motion on the floor to table. So it's non-debatable. So I'll ask for a vote on that. Supervisor Nielsen and Supervisor Kiesler, or Kilberg. ready to vote. What? This is the motion to table, so if you want this, a yes means table, no means we're going to move forward, so you can vote on this motion to table. Two yeses, 17 no. No, so we'll move forward. We have a motion on the floor, and we're open for discussion.
I'd like to speak to the main motion. And first of all, I want to acknowledge fellow Supervisor Nielsen's work. And he attended a number of our ad hoc subcommittee meetings. So he's not just a person coming in unaware. He did his homework. I appreciate all the effort he took to make this. However, he just expressed his opinion of maybe some exceptions to what the county has undertaken over the last 6 months to study this issue. Lots of people, lots of professionals, lots of supervisors, lots of stakeholders have chimed in on this issue. Sure, there's going to be risks, but we are certain of one thing, and that is we are living in an aging population, and there's going to be a demand for this service, and it might even be me. So for all of those in this county that I spoke to about always having a place where you can afford, because we don't need to have private pay, we're equipping this in a way that if it's family care, if it's Medicaid, we can find a way for you. So I was most pleased the other day when, you know my political background a little bit, when who speaks up in favor of this whole project but Kitty Rhodes. And I was just shocked to think that, my goodness, we are like-minded on a few things at least. And when she was throwing her support in, especially to the dementia care area and how she will help to champion this cause, I said, I'm with you on this, Kitty. So let's stay together as a community. Let's get this done. We've done the homework. We've hired the experts. It's a go.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Nielsen.
I'll keep this real short. Just to clarify things, none of this that I've covered tonight is my opinion. I mean, my word is I'm quoting our own market study that says we can't fill those beds. That's not my opinion, and none of this in here is my opinion. Thank you.
I've got a person in the audience. Sure. What? No. I'm going to forego it. Supervisor Kiesler.
Thank you, Chair. I will be voting in favor of this. I think I was elected to my seat by a 2/3 majority of the voters this last time. Oddly enough, that seems to be what the referendums had shown, 2/3 majority. I am honored and privileged to serve the south half of New Richmond, District 13. I'm honored and privileged to be put here by the folks that voted for me. I think it's more than coincidence that 2/3 of the vote elected me and 2/3 of the vote on two different referendum said that they want the nursing home. And so at this point, I think it is the will of the people to support the nursing home. And I don't think you get reelected by telling 2/3 of your constituents that they're wrong. So again, I think other people could serve in my capacity. And if I got this one wrong, then if I run for re-election next time, then I suspect I will be unseated by a different vote. I think I got this one right, and I think we'll get this one right if we vote this nursing home project through. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Babbitt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two things briefly. I would agree with Supervisor Schoberg and others that this body has had extensive debate about this issue. There's been an enormous amount of time spent by not only supervisors, but county staff, department heads, and many others looking at this issue, I think, in a very careful and deliberate manner. I think if there's any reason that we are sitting here today, it's to serve the people of this county, and this is one of the ways that we can do it most directly. And in my opinion, the most effectively by providing the kind of facility that we're now about to approve, I hope. Second point, very quickly, and Supervisor Nielsen probably anticipated I would say this, the Dementia Crisis Stabilization Unit we are proposing will be the only one in the state. Supervisor Nielsen is referencing a psychiatric facility in Amory, which is not at all the same thing that we're proposing here. Psychiatric units run in a very, very different way and generally don't keep clients for more than a few days. The stabilization unit we're proposing is a wholly different animal, and I just wanted to be sure we understood that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to tell you, we did our public comment at the beginning of the meeting for the people that wanted public comment, so I'm not going to take any hands right now.
That was for things that weren't being addressed on the agenda. This is on the agenda.
No, the ones we took before were on the agenda, and they came in. Any other discussion? Supervisor Nielsen.
I believe a citizen can speak if they get the approval of their supervisor. Is that correct? On this issue?
That's the current rule.
That's good. If a supervisor signs his slip to speak, isn't that what we always do before?
That was the procedure.
Yeah, that was the procedure we had, was to get the approval of their supervisor to speak.
What district are you
What
from,
district?
sir?
I believe Mr. Larson is my representative. I'm from the town of Starkburg.
Okay. So I can, if you sign a slip, I'll let you come up and speak. That's the procedure we've always had. That's fine. That's fine. That's what we've done. So I don't want to go away from that, but that's what we've done.
I didn't know they signed slips.
What?
I didn't know they signed a slip.
Great, you can sign a slip for a supervisor to approve. Yep. Okay, Gary Hansen, go ahead.
Question?
Gary Hansen from the town of Star Prairie is where I live. Anyhow, my question was in regards to...
Like 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Was in regards to the the background information that was included for this seemed to indicate that the amount of money was being broken up into two $10 million sections, where one of the sections looked like it was had a sizable timeframe delay in relation to what the actual expenses were going to be laid out for. So I was just kind of wondering why the hurry to lump these together to bring them forward. And then I had some comments in regards to the nursing home, but I'll wait for that particular section to come up.
Okay, thank you. Pat, you want to?
Joe Murray from Springstead, do you want to explain how the bond issuance is actually split into two sales and what the repayment, how that impacts the repayment?
Yes, sir. Good evening. I'm Joe Murray from Springstead, proud to be the county's financial advisor. We've done some modeling as part of the resolutions you're considering to borrow the up to $20 million for the nursing home. The $20 million that we have presented was based on it being split into two issues, one being done here in August or so of this year, assuming that that's when construction on the nursing home would begin, and the second $10 million borrowing taking place in March of next year as construction is moving forward, as opposed to borrowing it all at one time. The reason that we've split it into two issues is to, under tax law, you can receive tax-exempt qualification for banks to purchase your debt if you issue up to $10 million in a calendar year. So by issuing up to $10 million this year and $10 million in 2016, they would remain bank qualified, which would allow for banks to purchase them and receive tax-exempt benefits similar to an individual. By providing banks who are large buyers of municipal debt the opportunity to buy your debt with the same benefits, it creates a large investor pool, which helps drive down the rates. When we projected if we were to do this with one issue as opposed to splitting it into two, the interest rate cost savings, we projected saving the county at approximately $1.25 million by splitting it. And that is reflective, including of the additional cost of issuance of two, just because you're able to maintain having banks as being eligible and willing investors in your debt. The structuring of the debt was based around the county's three current debt issues that you have outstanding to try to minimize the tax levy impact, and also to recognize that the income projected from the nursing home is not expected to start coming online until 2018. So we did structure this with low principal payments in 2016 on the borrowing that we had projected for this year, on the 2015, and then going interest only in 17 on that, so that would provide capacity for the issuance in 2016 for the remaining $10 million. They would then both come online with principal payments starting in 2017. It would then pick up and increase by $450,000 in principal payments in 2018 moving forward, when you have the additional money moving forward from the additional revenue from the nursing home. If I could address one item that was raised during question, and kind of along the lines of maybe the risk analysis associated with this. As part of my memorandum, we had projected that through the two issues, the total debt issuance, principal and interest, for the $20 million will come in at just approximately a little bit more than $27 million. And in my memo at the bottom on page 2, I talk about the total cost impact of that at being, for the total 20 years principal of interest on a $100,000 equalized value home at $356.17. That's per $100,000 of equalized value. That number did not reflect, that is a conservative number, and did not reflect the $8.1 million projected of revenue from the nursing home. If that $8.1 million comes in, that will help lower the tax levy impact on the associated with the debt service for the new facility. So the higher number at the $356.17 per 100,000 was a higher end estimate. If the revenues do come in, anything, projecting it, if it comes in at the $8.1 million, the cost per $100,000 decreases to about $250 for the total 20 years. So there, the number that I put in my memo is a higher and more conservative number. So if there is any revenue, it helps reduce that from the projections that I had. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions about the structuring and how this was put forward.
Okay.
Thank you,
Any other
Joe.
questions? Thank you. Supervisor
I have a
Brinkman.
question. The bonds we're talking are callable?
The bonds would have a 10-year call feature, yes. So in 10 years from after the date of issuance, if there is additional income coming in from the nursing home or wanting a desire to accelerate and pay them down faster, we could do that.
You do have to wait 10 years.
Yes. If we were to put a shorter call provision on it, you're going to pay higher interest costs for that risk. But for a 20-year bond issue, putting a 10-year call provision is a standard practice, and it would not have a negative impact on interest rates.
Any other questions? No other discussion? We have a motion on the floor and a second for the resolution authorizing the borrowing of not to exceed 20 million and providing for the issuance of sales of general obligation bonds therefore. If there's no further discussion, looking around, no further discussion, we will vote on this. Who knows? The rest are all yes. So we got 17-2. Thank you. That's enough. Now thank you, everyone. We will move on to the next one, resolution, which is a resolution approving the design of a 50-bed skilled nursing home facility, 10-bed dementia crisis stabilization unit, and a 40-bed community-based residential facility. So I'm looking for a motion. So Supervisor Schottner has a motion. I need a second. Supervisor Nelson seconded that, and it's open for discussion. We've gone over this a lot, so I don't expect a lot of discussion, so I don't, Supervisor Berkey.
I just am extremely excited about this opportunity to have this new facility that will cover not only the nursing facility, the dementia crisis, which is a state-of-the-art in the state of Wisconsin, and the community-based residential facility. I want to thank all of those folks on the ad hoc committee that dug in and did their work, the staff, the other stakeholders, and thank you very much. I'm supporting this.
Thank you. There any other discussion? No discussion? What? Yeah.
You don't have to recognize him.
Don't have to. Well, I'll recognize him, let him say something. I'll go ahead and speak, Gary.
Thank you. Again, Gary Hansen from the town of Star Prairie. I just wanted to bring up the provision within this for the energy heating complex for the groundwater or other setups. I would like the board to take a look into the Tesla power type of system in connection for emergency backup and for cogeneration of heat. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor Schoberg.
So the motion as stands right now does not include any of the alternates as part of its
Correct.
budget. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I believe, was it not the administration committee that, or was it the ad hoc committee submitted a proposal that would increase the budget to, by adding another $640,000 to cover the geothermal heating and cooling, which would have a payback in less than 15 years, and thereafter forever reduce our costs of heating this facility. And 15 years is a conservative number because, as it was expressed by the experts, that's based upon the price of gas not going up. So if you think the price of gas is stable for the next 20, 50 years, then we still get our money back in 15 years. So if it makes sense to get your money back or in 15 years or sooner and forever be less dependent on gas for energy, then I would support the ad hoc committee's recommendation to increase the overall budget to $20,640,000. That's my motion to amend this motion by that amount.
I second that amendment.
Who seconded? Supervisor Hanson seconded for an amendment to the motion.
I'm going
Supervisor
Mr.
Alphonse.
Schoberg, are you asking then that we take the 670,000 and move that into our budget for next year? Find money for it in our next year's budget?
What I would recommend is that you amend the resolution with a further be it resolved that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors approves the increase in the project $20 million budget by, actually the number is 670, to include geothermal option 2, and this is what's important, and direct staff to bring back a financing plan for the amount needed above the 20 million in bonding once the results of the competitive bidding process are known. So in other words, you're making provision, making allowance for the geothermal option 2, which was debated and discussed at Committee of the Whole and Administration. You're not increasing the bonding amount, which was just approved, but you're directing staff to bring back a financing plan in that amount for the geothermal once the bid results are known on the project. So that would be an additional further be it resolved on the resolution.
If there's not objection from the board, I would ask that the board consider amending my motion as stated by County Administrator Thompson.
Are there,
I'll second it.
well, we had a second. It's up to
No,
Supervisor Hanson.
I understood what Roy said initially to be what was discussed at the Committee of the Whole and what was discussed at the ad hoc concerning the geothermal option 2. And I think that Administrator Thompson has just succinctly summarized that, and my second stands.
Supervisor Rain. It's open discussion. What? The amendment, what?
Discussing the amendment.
Discussing the amendment.
The question I have then about the amendment is, I'm wondering if it is necessary to put that firm amount in and just direct the staff to look at the alternate, all of the alternates. once we know what they are. Because one, didn't we have a $600,000 financing? We have $670,000 in the geothermal. There's about $500,000 for the therapy pool if we're interested in that. And it seems like there was, oh, and then if we did adult daycare. It's as if there are options for this, including foundation funding or something, I think we should look at those. So that if we've identified more than one option that we're interested at that, and it seems like why limit it to just 670, which doesn't include all the contingencies. So I'm wondering if we can look at, instead of putting that price tag on, look at the options and financing those, or ways to finance those.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Peterson.
Although I was unable to attend the last meeting ad hoc for medical reasons and my family, I did review the video, and my take is, and my understanding would be that the immediate concern, as Supervisor Solberg said, was the heating system and the economy in that. And I must disagree with Supervisor Ring that I think considering other options is going to do nothing but muddy the water. I think we need to stay focused and get this thing passed so that we can get moving on it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the amendment on the floor? Supervisor Brinkman.
If I could direct this at Administrator Thompson, when you say ways to pay for it, aren't there only two choices? We put it in next year's budget or we take it out of the fund balance?
There's different options for financing the geothermal system, and the two that you have mentioned are possible options, part of the plan. The other plan is looking at the additional payback on the geothermal. There's other options that I've been discussing with Joe Murray, and I would like to have the opportunity to bring back a financing plan for those, for the geothermal. But I think it's premature to do that until we have the bid numbers back, because that could have a huge bearing on the capacity to fund not only geothermal, but the other alternate bids that are in the project that Supervisor Ring mentioned. So I think once the construction bids are back, we'll know more. We'll have more information. And at that point, we would bring forward a financing plan for the geothermal.
Supervisor Berkey.
Just a follow-up on the discussion as brought forward by Supervisor Ring. I also don't want to close the door on the contingencies, the therapy pool, and possibly the adult daycare. And I think that Administrator Pat Thompson has clarified that if indeed we work with the financial staff and consultants, that you can come back with a plan that doesn't close the door on those alternatives. Is that correct?
Supervisor Ring.
So can I ask the question about the interim interest cost? Because that is not part of it. How is that being financed?
Joe, do you want to?
Talking about the amendment that we're looking at, the $670,000 amendment that's on the motion on the floor?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how that's relevant, but.
I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Is there any other, is there any other discussion about the amendment that's on the floor to add the Supervisor Troutner?
I'm for this amendment primarily because when it comes to the therapy pool, the basis for that pool, the foundation for it, is part of the plan already. When it comes to the adult daycare, that is already in the design, the type of facility. The structure is already in the design. This is not in the design of the plan. So of all the items that are currently that we're looking at for the plan, this is the one that really doesn't have any support unless we actually give it the support. So I am in favor of moving forward with this.
Any other discussion on the amendment on the floor? Supervisor,
Can you read the
Extra.
amendment back so we do know exactly? It went off on lots of little
Okay, yes.
tangents, so, yeah.
okay, read it.
This would be it further resolved, so this would be at the end of the resolution. Be it further resolved that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors approves the increase in the project $20 million budget by $670,000 to include geothermal option 2 and direct staff to bring back a financing plan for the amount needed above the $20 million in bonding once the results of the competitive bidding process are known.
So does everybody understand what the amendment is? If there's no further questions, we'll call for the vote.
Roger.
Just on the
Roger.
amendment. Supervisor Nelson?
Yeah. Do we have a kind of a drop dead date so it doesn't run into way far in, so it starts to be drug along a little bit as far as when we're going to figure out the financing plan for it once you get the bids in? Because it's going to be, I understand it's inclusive, but when you do a roof, you're going to add onto the house. You got to have a timeline on how much more it's going to cost, but you got to have a definite time when you're going to have it finished, the financing plan. So are we going to wait until after the bids are in? And then we know financially how we're going to do it?
No, the geothermal option 2 will be, upon passage of this resolution, will be part of the design documents that go out for bid. And so once we have the final construction bids in, and I believe that's going to be in the July, August timeframe, then we'll know exactly where the final construction costs are and where and if we can afford any of the other alternates in the construction bid documents. But the geothermal is part of, if this is approved, it will be part of the design. It will be factored into the overall construction of the facility. And you then, by passage of this, you're directing staff to come back to the board with a financing plan to fund the geothermal option 2, and not increasing the $20 million in bonding, which has already been approved by the board.
Supervisor Nelson?
So technically with that, if the comes in 19 million too, that's still under the 20 million bonding, so we wouldn't have to really do a financial plan then, correct?
That would be the best case scenario that you've just outlined. I like how you think.
Supervisor?
Been taught well.
This is what's so frustrating about projects, and I've been a part of several of them now at the county. 10, 15 minutes ago, we approved to build a new nursing home. We're already asking for more money. Why instead of doing this, why don't we direct staff to go back to the people that are going to bid this and say, at $20 million, it has to include geothermal? Like I said, 15 minutes ago, we said yes, and now we're already asking for more money. I don't care if we bond it or pay for it out of the fund balance. We already have another project that's $2.5 million over that we're going to have to take money out of the fund balance for. The $10 million we bonded for last year is pretty much $2.5 million short. So, or maybe we bonded for it this year. Why can't we wait until we see what the actual construction numbers come back and have Pat negotiate in there at $20 million? Or maybe for this geothermal, they come back and say, you know what, if you left this portion out, you could get geothermal. But 10 minutes later to ask for another $670,000, just, puts a pit in my stomach. It's just, I don't know. I had to get it off my chest. I feel lighter now. I hope I look lighter on camera.
Supervisor Leifrid.
I wondered if Pat could speak about the construction contingency and how, once the bid comes in, that'll go down.
Right, there's actually two separate contingencies. One is a design contingency, and someone in the staff helped me with the numbers, what that amounts to. And then there's also a construction contingency, so there's actually two, and I think they total up close to $1 million in total contingencies, one for the design, one for construction. Once the project is put out for bid, which is going to take place within the next probably 6 to 7 weeks, once that is on the street and it's out for construction bids, the design contingency goes away. In other words, that's no longer, the architect and engineering firm no longer have access to that contingency. In other words, it becomes part of the project. So the intent is that once the project is out for bid, there's going to be contingency left in the design portion of the project cost. That will be part of the financing plan that I bring back to the board for geothermal. So, it's made up of a couple different moving parts, and it might be a combination of, a residual contingency from the design. It could be a combination of that. It could be a combination of an advance from the general fund to fund the project that would be replenished by future health center revenues. There's going to be a menu of options available to the board. The other contingency is the construction contingency, and that will last the entire project. And so that will probably get used considerably more than the design contingency, which I believe we haven't used much of it yet, and knock on wood, I hope we don't have to. Some of it will be used for the additional cost of designing the geothermal. So we will have to use some of the design contingency to actually change the initial design to incorporate geothermal. So I think there will be some capacity there. Thank you. Good point.
Are there any other questions on the amendment change? If there's no further questions, we'll vote on the amendment change to this resolution. Three noes and the rest are yes, so we'll move on with that. Now we're back to the original resolution. There's a motion and a second on the floor on the original. As amended. So are there any questions? It's open for discussion on the floor again, as amended now. No further questions? Supervisor Kiesler.
Yeah, I've spoken a number of times in favor of the therapy pool because I do believe it makes our nursing home unique. I think it was Larry Lester who said even if folks don't need the therapy pool upon admission, they would be more likely to choose our nursing home simply because it had one. I didn't think geothermal should have been an option, quite frankly. I thought it should have been built right into the base. So it doesn't really cause a pit in my stomach as much as it does, I guess, to, Supervisor Brinkman, because I believe it's core. It's dollar savings. It's long-term thinking instead of short-term thinking, as is the therapy pool. And so the last I knew, it was going to cost out at a break-even or better proposition through the running of that. How do we make sure that this doesn't get lost? Because I've also heard, well, let's just kick the can down the road, and if we find money under some couch cushion or something, we'll fund it then. Does this take another, further it be resolved? Or is it a part of the overall design? Or how is this going to not get lost? I guess the question is to Administrator Thompson. If it is going to get lost somewhere in the shuffle, then I would suggest yet another amendment similar to the one we just did for geothermal.
The discussion on the therapy pool is a very important one, and I think that Supervisor Schachner hit the nail on the head, that the facility is being designed with anticipation for either the therapy pool being part of the facility immediately or in the near future. So we're not going to lose sight of that. I think that the hope is that the bids come in such that we would be able to fund the alternates. So I don't think we're going to lose sight of those components. I think they're critical, and I think the marketing study bears that out in terms of the importance of the therapy pool.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Rain.
So I still have a question about I believe it's the construction financing. At the committee of the whole, weren't we told that there's a $600,000 interest cost that's not included on this? So how are we paying for that? Am I correct on that?
I see Joe Murray left, so Bob, you're next man up.
Chair and supervisors, Larry Lester from Whipley had, in his analysis, had included, I believe it was $652,000 that was identified as capitalized interest. What it is it's the interest that accrues on the debt during the construction period. And I think earlier I'd used the analogy, if you were building a building as part of a business, you're not creating revenue during the construction phase. And so the interest that's accruing, you have to find a way to finance that as well as all of the other construction costs. What is different here is that during the construction phase, we will be levying taxes already. And so we'll be paying those interest costs as we go, so they don't need to be financed further. What you will see is that when it gets recorded, the facility gets recorded on our books, accounting regulations will require that we recognize that capitalized interest is part of the cost of the building. But we don't need to finance it additionally, because we're paying it through the levy currently.
And so are we recognizing it as a project cost?
It will be recognized as a project cost on our books, when things are audited, because we're going to recognize that it's part of the cost of building the building. It is not part of our construction budget because that interest is being paid currently by the first 2 years of tax levy. And so it's not coming out of construction funds. Not sure if
So in the Joe Murray report, it's included in those numbers? When you say we're generating levy, but it's not levy for this project, it's just...
Yeah, if you look at let's see. that was, $8.65 represents the impact on a $100,000 equalized value of the tax levy. What I wanted to point out, and I think it's your packet, page 102, where we show it shows all of our current outstanding debt, including the 2008, the 2010, and 2014 bond issues, and then it shows the 2015 and 16 proposed bond issues, along with the revenue. The construction capitalized interest is essentially that $679,000 that you see under the 2015 bonds, because that's the interest that's being levied for during that first year while the construction is going on.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions or discussion, we'll have a motion and a second on the floor with an amendment to it. The resolution approving the Hoyt Evelyn design of a 50-bed skilled nursing facility, 10-bed dementia crisis stabilization unit, and 40-bed community-based residential facility. And that's amended, so with this $670,000 amendment to that. So if everybody understands that and you're ready to vote, we'll vote. Two noes, one abstained, and 16 yeses. So we'll move on. How about a 5-minute quick break for everybody? Get up and move around a little bit. We're going to move on to the next resolution on the agenda tonight. The resolution amending rules and bylaws of the Board of St. Croix County, Supervisors of St. Croix County.
So move.
So move.
I'd like to second.
Second by Ms. Supervisor Kiesler. We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Supervisor Arkansas.
Two areas of discussion. One is just for an explanation, even though most of the people may have left, but when we said invocation or moment of silence, that was if the person that was supposed to be here did not show up, then we would have the option of having the moment of silence. That was not to take place, the invocation, just wanting to make sure that because we couldn't tell them that when they were here, and the way, it was, because we discussed that. It's not to take the place of it. It's if the person that was supposed to show up did not show up, which apparently has happened. It hasn't happened since I've been on, but and then in place of that, we would possibly have the moment of silence. That was why that addition was put, and I just want to kind of clarify that.
I understand that now.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you. Okay. And I know we talked about this, and I'm still going to bring it up. I would still like to have, I know we changed it so all 12 months would be in the evening. I would still like to have it either like 6/6 or, instead of sporadically put in maybe the, I don't know, but then you say that in the evening, everybody can get to it, but what if someone works second shift? So no matter what time you choose, you're going to be leaving someone out. But I wouldn't like to have it split like the way we have it now, but if you said that days would be in the middle of the winter, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out, but it bothers me if they were all at night, because in my mind, that also omits certain people that do work the shift.
Supervisor Nielsen?
On that same issue, I would like to have the moment of silence removed, and I would like the original language put there. And I'd like to tell you a little story, if I could. It's only a couple of paragraphs about Benjamin Franklin, who was not known as a Christian. He was more of a deist, but we don't know. He did soften somewhat in his elderly days. But the Congress of the Confederation, which preceded our current Congress, authorized in 1787 the Constitutional Convention that created our Constitution. One of the most controversial issues, states' representation, could have nullified the entire process. Tempers flared and interests clashed as the delegates thought their respective goals. It was within this quagmire of divisiveness that the elder statesman, Ben Franklin, offered his famous appeal for harmony and conciliation, an appeal for God's intervention. He pleaded for a 3-day recess to seek and understand each other's views on the matter. Ben Franklin ended his speech this way, and it's English that I'm not used to, so bear with me. Before I sit down, Mr. President, I will suggest another matter, and I am really surprised that it has not been proposed by some other member at an earlier period of our deliberations. I will suggest, Mr. President, the propriety of nominating and appointing before we separate a chaplain to this convention, whose duty it shall be uniformly to assemble with us and introduce the business of each day by an address to the Creator of the universe and the Governor of all nations, beseeching him to preside in our council, enlighten our minds with a portion of heavenly wisdom, influence our hearts with a love of truth and justice, and crown our labors with complete and abundant success. Now, if this was important to Ben Franklin and George Washington and John Adams and many other founding fathers, then it should also be important to us today.
Any other discussion?
If I might, I am the supervisor that recommended invocation or a moment of silence, and Supervisor Ochterhoff is correct with respect to if the ministerial individual is not available, not able to come, then we can have a moment of silence by our chair. The other piece of that also is if there is someone of a different faith or not of faith that is here at the meeting, whether behind me or one of the board members, that moment of silence is a time for that individual to use that time as they so choose. And so I think it's a win-win. I don't see any harm in continuing with invocation or moment of silence. Just needed to make my comment.
Is there any other discussion on the? So, Supervisor Nielsen.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go with this, I guess, with the whole board, but I'd like to move that section, under Section 8 procedures, under Item 3, the order of business on a county board meeting agenda shall be as follows. Second item, invocation of or moment of silence. I'd like or moment of silence removed.
Okay. Any other? Supervisor Nelson?
I'm not second. Do I get discussion, or where we at?
We got, yeah.
I'll second it. I want to hear the discussion.
Supervisor Shatner?
I guess as it stands, I prefer the language that is, as it's presented over the amendment, because it offers, this is just how we operate. So if we present an invocation and the pastor's contacted, and but they're not able to attend due to something something like harsh weather or their car gets stuck, we still recognize that time as a moment, at least with a moment of silence. This is just for me, this is an operational document, and we're still recognizing that time. So I see no conflict here.
This, the amendment then, who? Yes. Supervisor Nelson?
Yeah,
Just give me just a second.
I never took offense to any of it when I read Moment of Silence. In the fire service, we do a lot of invocations, motions of silence or moments of silence because of if someone doesn't show up or certain rituals that we do in the fire service. So I think it's good to have an option. I like the invocation. I think they're very good. I actually kind of enjoy them, so which is good. See, I don't go to church a lot because I work that crazy schedule, which we need to talk about more till October 1st. But I like the option, but I also enjoy when the invocation. So to me, I think removing it doesn't really do much except schematics of it, because I think the gentlemen who have the gentlemen that do the invocation do a spectacular job, and I hope we won't have that problem, never have to have the moment of silence, unless someone wants to do it themselves.
Okay. I have a gentleman. Would you fill out one of these, please? And we'll. No, he hasn't yet. Supervisor Schoberg.
I too am in favor of keeping the word or moment of silence, because when all the speakers spoke in favor of keeping the invocation, only one of them said that they would be, only one of them said, we are a Christian nation, and by that, I think they were trying to establish that fact. All the other ones speaking in favor of the invocation were willing to say all faiths. And when you say all faiths, there are people in this world that are non-faith. And as a government, we need to make everybody feel included in the government that we present. And so the mere words or moment of silence will give them recognition. And I want to recognition all my brothers and sisters who are of religious persuasion, such as myself and just about everybody in this room, but as well anybody that walks in this door who has a different belief system.
I have a card here from Al Welke, if he'd like to speak.
Yes, Al Wilkie is my name. I was here at a meeting. I live in Troy Township, by the way. I was at a meeting, I think I was referred to you as your executive committee here a couple weeks ago addressing the same issue. I heard the term win-win situation earlier, and I agree with that. I think the wording the way it is a win-win situation. There has not been a situation that has been contrary to that, so I don't see that there is a reason for the change. And I think if we do deviate from the wording that we have, we are watering down the reference to the appeal to a higher power to start us off at this meeting. And the question and the relationship here to, if a member of the clergy is not here, obviously there cannot be an invocation and there cannot be a moment of silence. If somebody were to choose, there needn't be either. And if the clergy is here, a member of the clergy could say, I would like to have a moment of silence as well. So again, I made the comment 2 weeks ago, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'd say that again. And we talk about offending people. I personally can't be offended. I choose not to be offended. But this is offensive to me when people are here to simply make a change for which there is no reason to make that change. So I urge you people to vote individually and support the current wording, which includes an invocation. An invocation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Supervisor Hanson.
All right. I think we've wasted an entirely huge amount of time talking about something which doesn't have anything to do with the governing work of the people. We come here to do the business of the citizens and taxpayers of St. Croix County, and we are being bullied by a minority of boisterous Christians who want to have a public forum to make their prayer. And it's inappropriate. It's not good government, and it's wasted how much of our time over the last several meetings. I don't think we should put a whole lot of more time into this. Nobody's going to vote against invocation because they're allowing themselves to be bullied. Let's just vote for it and give them what they want.
There's an amendment on the floor in a second. Go ahead, Andy. Supervisor Brinkman.
Just for the record, and I'd like this, on the record, I don't feel bullied by anyone regarding this matter.
Yes. There's an amendment on the floor in a second to change the... Excuse me?
Push the button.
Cindy, can you read that amendment back for us, please?
The amendment is a motion by Supervisor Nielsen, second by Supervisor Brinkman, to remove the term moment of silence after invocation.
So, okay. Yep, does everybody understand what the amendment is? There's no further discussion? Okay, then we'll vote. I don't care. The amendment fails. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses. So we'll move on to the original motion on the floor for the resolution of the bylaws. Is there any other? I heard some other remarks, but I haven't heard any other amendments, so if there's Supervisor Babbitt.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciate all of the work that's gone into this project. The administration committee has met for countless hours. I'm sure I couldn't add them all up if I tried. And I just wanted known that we appreciate the extent of this job, and I think the work product is terrific. I support the changes. Perhaps we've gotten sidetracked on a couple of smaller issues, but the larger product is, I think, very good. So thanks to all who put in countless hours on the project.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Leifried?
I hate to bring this up again, but under the number 3 order of business of the county board with the invocation or moment of silence, I wonder, as our county board, we understand what this means, but future county boards, it might be that they could just do a moment of silence. I wonder if we could include the words after moment of silence to say if a pastor is not available. And that I would offer as an amendment.
Do I have a second to that amendment? Motion? Is there a second? Asking, is there a second to that amendment motion? Hearing none, is that not going to go any further? Any other discussion on the bylaws, resolution as Supervisor Akhtarov?
Well, yeah, I might as well make an amendment that if it passes, it passes, if it doesn't, doesn't. But for the months of, let's say, December, January, and February, we have the meetings during the day. I mean, if I'm willing to change the, if someone wants to add a month or something like that, but just so the winter months, it would be during the day. I make a motion for those 3 months to have the meetings during the day.
Do I have a second to that? Supervisor Peavy, second that. Is there any discussion on the amendment? go to
I have a question.
Supervisor Ring.
I have heard from some staff that it would be helpful sometimes to have daytime meetings. What did you hear? You were going to survey staff? Could we hear?
Yeah, we surveyed staff, and I don't have a tally of their responses, but the responses I did see, there was a preference for day meetings, overnight meetings, and there wasn't, I saw one that didn't like the 5 o'clock start time. But that department head that responded that way did prefer day meetings. So I think I think, it's a good motion.
Supervisor Arkaroff, did you have a meeting time for days with your amendment? I mean, just 9 o'clock?
What we have been doing, it would
Okay.
be fine with me.
You want to state that as part of your,
Be 9 o'clock start time for the months of December, January, and February.
is that all right with?
9 a.m.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Supervisor-
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment too, and, we're trying to change this to evenings to accommodate more people, but elderly people don't like to drive at night, so, we're getting done at, well, who knows when we're gonna get done, but we're getting done at, in the evening. I think in the wintertime, it's a perfect example. We're done, we meet during the daytime, elderly that come to the meetings can get home in the daytime, and in the summer, hopefully we would be done at a time where it might be still by daylight, and people would get home. That's why I second and support the amendment. Also, from my experience, a lot of meetings I go to in my life, you don't make good decisions after 9:30 at night. You really don't. And if you look at the records, you don't. Farming, Andy knows, that's when you jump over PTO shafts instead of walking around because you're tired and you lose your leg. So these are, so I don't, some 3 meetings in the daytime I think would be appropriate for anybody that wants to be on, a candidate in 2 years or a year now that wants to be a member, knows ahead of time when they're going to meet, if their work schedule agrees. So I think it'd be appropriate to have 3 meetings daytime. The other 9 in the evening works fine. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Nelson?
Actually, was hoping Judy would say from November to February. Because technically, or even March, the way I look at it, actually, this is the worst time of the year, most accidents, things like that at night. But I don't want to elongate it, but also there's a lot of deer running around in October and November at night. So just think about that.
Right. So that'd be good to be in the day.
Supervisor Troutner?
I would actually promote the November one also because that's our budget. The reason is, outside of the deer and everything else, that is arguably one of the most important meetings because that's our budget. Our November meeting is our budgetary meeting, and for a county, that is why we are here. Primarily is for dealing with the county business. That is how we use the finances of the county. So I would just ask that it be expanded to at least November to February then.
When I made it, I mentioned that if anybody wanted to extend the
Yeah,
day,
but
I would be fine with that, so.
Do you want to revise your,
I'll revise my motion from November till
February?
November,
March?
March,
November, December. So that's 5 months.
Okay, so are you okay with that? So that's November, December, January, February, and March.
And I'd be fine with that as secondary to the motion, yes.
Okay, so Supervisor Nielsen?
To be a friendly amendment and to be put into effect, Judy can accept it, Supervisor Achterhoff, but also the person that seconded also has to accept that change.
Okay, so Is everybody okay with, you know what the amendment is? Is there discussion? Supervisor Babbitt.
I realize we're trying to satisfy an awful lot of different miniature constituencies within the board here, but as someone who works full-time all day long, meetings during the day take away from my paid vacation. So to be here, I'm losing time when I can take off work. I have a very tolerant employer, thankfully, but if I didn't, there'd be no way I could run for the office. So I'm certainly not trying to say this is an absolute statement on my part that I couldn't participate or wouldn't or something like that. But I think the point was made at committee of the whole that if we're going to try to attract a wide variety of individuals to the board, we do want to bring people who are working full-time and give them the opportunity to be on the board. And this is going to make it harder. I understand the motivation behind the amendment completely, and I'm not unsympathetic, but for some of us, this is a burden to try to do that. So just would make that comment.
Okay. Supervisor Novotny.
I'd like to agree with Dr. Babbitt on this. I work 45 hours a week on my day job, and then I come in to work with the county. I'm not complaining. This is what I signed on for. But it is kind of awkward for me, taking vacation. And, I try to take half days, but occasionally our meetings run long, and half day turns into 3/4 day. And it is vacation time for me. So I would support the original amendment with 3 months, but once we start adding months after month, we're back to where we were. Plus, we've got 12 monthly meetings instead of 10.
Supervisor Keesler.
I would like to underscore Supervisor Babbitt and Supervisor Novotny. As a working individual, it is very difficult. I know there are individuals who don't run for the board because of the day meetings. It does mean that you have to then take your PTO time. Pat has said a number of times that the staff are here to provide information for us and to us. He's also said a number of times that having one time set across the board would be preferable for consistency. I could, as I love to compromise, give a 3-month allowance there because of the winter driving. But again, extending it 1 more month on this side and 1 more month on that side, well, then we're right back to 6 and 6. It does. I mean, we like to kind of mull over these and over these and over these. I don't think there's any one size that's going to fit all. We can change it in a year and probably will when the new board is seated. At this point, I think we have a number of individuals that work during the day, and that means they have to take PTO or time off from their work and to make these meetings. And like Supervisor Novotny said, I get it. That's what I signed up for. But having said that, I would just like to say I couldn't support continuing to go on either side. Now we're up to 4 or 5. I don't know what we're up to, 5 or 6 months. So thank you.
Supervisor Peterson.
I'll try and be brief because I know the hours are getting late. As a rural person, I don't enjoy driving at night, so that's one issue with me, why I prefer the day ones. The other would be that I wonder how many people are sitting here at this hour that are focused, and I think that's a very good point. We don't make the decisions in the evening that we do in the day, not near as well. That's all I have to say.
Supervisor Peavy.
Just a simple follow-up, I think I've been on 10 years. I don't get PTO. I don't get vacation pay. My tractor's waiting for me when I get home. I'll work all night now if it isn't raining. So I think that's part of what you do when you take this job. You know what the schedule is, and Supervisor Novotny said it clearly. So I think, we're trying to accommodate 2 groups, and I think with the 5 months is appropriate. We're done in the winter, and I forgot about budget, we don't want to be here at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in November arguing about a budget. And we don't make good decisions by then. So I think the 5 months does work, and I understand people have to take time off from work, but that's, when you run for the job, you know what you're doing to do it. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, does everybody understand what Supervisor Novotny?
One other point I wanted to make too was regardless of, our personal preferences, many of my constituents were asking me why all the meetings or most of the meetings were held during the day because they had jobs too. And one of my platforms that I ran on was that we would work on getting the night meetings so more people could participate. Tonight was a perfect example. When was the last time we saw that many people? Obviously, we had a hot topic on board, but we had a lot of people here tonight. How many people do we see during the daytime meetings?
It depends. Supervisor Nielsen?
I'll be quick, but I'm going to muddy the waters a little bit here. The 7 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night is pretty tough. As we speak tonight, there's a school board meeting going on for Hudson and also, I believe, North Hudson City Council.
Any other discussion? Everybody knows what the amendment is? So would you read that back, Cindy, so we know exactly what the amendment is?
So motion by Supervisor Akhtarov, second by Supervisor Peavy to change the county board meeting schedule from, to meet during the day at beginning at 9 a.m. from November to March.
Okay, does everybody understand what Supervisor Babbitt?
Just so I'm clear on this, the revised rules and bylaws say we meet every month at 5 p.m. as it's currently stated. So what we are saying is that with the exception of these months proposed in the amendment,
Right.
the remaining months will be 5 p.m. starts,
Right,
not 7 o'clock.
right.
So with any luck at all, we're not going to be here till 10 o'clock very often with a 5 p.m. start, hopefully.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, does everybody understand the amendment now? So, okay, then we'll vote on that amendment. And that amendment passes. Supervisor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose an amendment and that we change the start times for these night meetings from 5 p.m. till 6 p.m. And if I get a second on that, I'll explain why.
Everybody hear the amendment? Change the meeting time at night from 5 to 6. Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Peavy?
Yeah, I'll second it, just here, a good reason.
Meetings that start at 5 p.m. in the county pay $90 per meeting. Meetings that start at 6 pay $60. 19 times 30 is 570. Times 12 meetings is $5,174 a year. Additional it will cost to have the meetings at 5 o'clock, subject to all county board members showing up for all of them. But okay, if you have a couple that don't, you're still in that $5,000 range. I don't think that's the right thing to do to the taxpayers of this county unless we want to change the bylaws about how much you're paid for at what time meetings start, but there's my thought behind it. It's an unnecessary charge to the taxpayers of this county.
Supervisor Keesler.
We had this discussion at a couple of different meetings. Unfortunately, you were at work and couldn't attend those. If they were night meetings, possibly you could have. And the discussion was, I think I have the floor. The discussion was that the staff would have to be held to do that. So unless you have numbers on all of the staff costs, to keep them here an extra hour because we're going to lose $30 on the other end, but you're going to have to then keep the staff here extra, which means they're going to then lose productivity in our pay-for-performance world. That may not be a good thing. Also, we had discussion that if we did this, we could also voluntarily agree to take less than the $90. We could take a $60 rate because the moving it to night was not a matter of trying to pick the pockets of the taxpayers. It was simply to try and live up to the platforms that we had run on in trying to get more nightly meetings. So while we cannot change the wage or the compensation per diem due to statutory guidelines until for this session, we can do that in future meetings for future boards. We could voluntarily, according to Corp Counsel, voluntarily take a reduction or keep it at $60 if we wanted to make note of that on the sheet that goes around. So from that standpoint, I would be opposed at the 6 o'clock start. I believe there's been ample discussion throughout the 40-plus hours of debate and work that's been done on this to set it at 5 o'clock.
Any other discussion? No other discussion? Everybody understand the amendment to change the start time of the night meetings from 6 o'clock instead of 5? Supervisor Rosses.
Quick question for Pat, if I may. I think this is one of the things that we did talk about at Committee of the Whole. In one of the comments that you had, between 5 and 6, that was going to, if we started at 5, that might take some nap time away from Scott. And to Mr. Brinkman, we did take a poll of all the supervisors at the Committee of the Whole, and it was unanimous that if we did start at 5, everybody agreed that we would go with the $60 per diem. We didn't vote on it. We took a poll. Well, we went around and we talked about 60, and everybody had a thumbs up on that.
My recollection is that Ron is correct in his assessment that it was reviewed, but no action was taken on switching back to a $60 or even making it voluntary. What we decided to do is it is what it is, and we will address it as soon as we can for the future, but we're stuck with the current pay system. If any of us as an individual approaches the county clerk and says, I waive that $30 fee, or here's $30 back, it's up to us individually, but not collectively. So Ron Kiesler stated it very well. At the Committee of the Whole, this issue was debated for a long time. We understand it will look negative about the fact that we're choosing this earlier time to accommodate most of the people for most of the reasons we've been discussing. So the impact of that fee can be adjusted in the future, but it can't be adjusted now unless you decide to do so individually.
Supervisor Schottner.
There was much debate about this at the last meeting, as was said before. And one of the suggestions that was brought forward was basically altering the sign-up sheet for the meetings to check off if you wanted the money or wanted the extra $30 or not. I felt that would lead to a lot of confusion, and I agreed that we shouldn't be just muddying the subject and causing a lot of confusion. But would not an option, a decent option be, instead of making all these check marks and whatever, just to write up a form that says, I, District 1 supervisor, if we have a regularly scheduled meeting, or for our regular scheduled meetings, I agree to be paid only $60? Just have a form written up that we can sign to cover the rest of our term, and then we address the bylaws for the next term? Wouldn't that be just a decent repair to this whole thing, instead of adjusting everything else? And
So you're talking about all 5 o'clock meetings, or just this?
the regularly scheduled 5 o'clock meetings. So because this is something we were facing on the admin committee also, and it would apply to that too. So if you have a regular scheduled meeting at 5 o'clock, you would, instead of getting 90, you get $50 or $60. Sorry. But we're dancing around the subject and trying to find ways in the bylaws to address the short-term problem. But I think moving the time back to 6 o'clock, and if you have a 4-hour-long meeting, now it's 10. And that's a normal meeting for us, is about 3 to 4 hours long. So I would rather have an earlier start time of 5 and be done by 8 or 9 than be done by 9 or 10 or longer. So would that not be just an option that would not have to be gone through the bylaws? Is my question, I guess, to Corporation Counsel or the administrator or whoever can answer. The question is basically, couldn't we just, instead of doing it like we were talking about during the committee of the whole, like adjusting our sign-up sheets and everything else, couldn't we just write up a form that says, I agree to forego the extra $30 during our regular meetings if they start before 6 o'clock?
I think you could do that, as long as it's easy to track and the clerk can deal with that. I think you could do that. But I think it's legal. They asked me off the cuff at a meeting, and I had actually researched an issue a few years ago about employees voluntarily taking a deduction in wage, and I don't see a difference as long as it's completely voluntary on the part of the elected official.
I call the question.
So is there any further discussion? We have an amendment on the floor to go from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Motion and second. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the amendment. Yeah, that amendment failed. 4 yeses, the rest noes. So we're back to the original motion on the resolution with an amendment to go to 5-day meetings. So does everybody understand what the amendment is? It would be November, December, January, February, and March. What? Did I lose something there?
Mr. Supervisor Brinkman's amendment was to change the starting time to evening.
Right.
And that failed.
That failed.
So now we're back to the main motion of approving the rules and bylaws.
With the amendment.
No, that's,
What, do we have to, we didn't have that amendment? We didn't vote on that yet.
no, you did.
Yeah. So the main motion.
The main motion is the rules and bylaws.
Rules and bylaws as amended.
As amended.
I thought that's what I said.
No, you just brought up you went back to an amendment.
Oh, well, okay. So that, everybody understands the motion on the floor is the main motion for the resolution bylaws with the amendment,
Yeah, with the amendment.
as amended. Phew, we'll get there. It's getting late. See what happens when it gets so late? Okay. Does everybody understand as amended is then? Ready to vote?
This wasn't an evening thing, this is a short-term memory problem.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the board. So ready to vote. Please vote. Except me, I didn't. But I mean the rest of it, yeah. Okay, and it approved. One no. Good job. Okay. At this time, we're going to move forward and go into closed session. So, it's been a long meeting. We need a motion to go into closed session pursuant
I'll
to
make the
Wisconsin statute 19851C to consider the county administrator's annual pay for performance assessment review.
I'd like to make
I'll
the motion.
second the motion.
In a second,
Make the motion.
we need to vote on that. Keesler, Ron.
Your electronic voting system serves as a roll call.
Right, that'll serve, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
And
all ready to vote?
would you like to define who?
I don't want no discussion, just vote
These are for the closed session.
for closed session. Okay. Okay, is everybody ready to vote? No complaints? Let's vote. To go into closed session. Supervisor Brinkman and Peterson. Gonna vote?
So you're never going to give permission to somebody to speak in the meetings?
Oh, okay. Okay, we're in closed session. We're up again, so at this time, I'm going to go down to the resolution approving the county administrators, 7/1/2014 to 2/8/2015 paper performance assessment and goals. The goals we're not getting into, but we need an approval of that, so I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve that.
Okay. Motion made and seconded by, motion by Supervisor Keesler, a second by Supervisor Hanson.
Okay,
As we're open for discussion, Supervisor Schochner.
I would like to amend the resolution so that, to reflect the fact that Mr. Thompson's goals will be brought forward at a future date.
Okay,
I don't have.
That was my motion, is that Roger said that we have to pass it and then hold on to goals. That's what I said I passed.
That's what I seconded.
that's what I. Is that okay, the way I stated it? Because then it should go to the administration committee to work on the goals and bring back to the, Municipal County Board.
Motion is to pass the pay for performance as recommended by the admin committee and to pass the goals back to the admin committee to work on and bring forth to the board.
Yeah. Yeah, he seconded that, so. Is there any other discussion? We have to vote.
Move the previous question. I just want to vote right now on it. We don't need to discuss it.
Okay. So if everybody's ready to vote, let's vote.
Andy, you're not done.
Okay, all yeses, thank you. And then we'll get correspondence and that. Cindy, do you have any correspondence?
I would like to make a motion that we have a benediction at the end of every meeting and make the minister stay.
Actually, any correspondence that I've received, I've already forwarded to you with respect to the resolutions, representatives on that. And then just a reminder that WCA is coming up, the annual conference in September, and it's in La Crosse, and if you're interested in going, let me know. The deadline to register isn't until August, so I just wanted to bring that up. It's September 20th through the 22nd. Date and time of the next county board meeting is 5 p.m. on
5 p.m.
June 2nd. June 2nd, 5 p.m.
Okay, so if there's nothing else. Okay. Yep.
Something you didn't miss. It's a great event. I have that right here.
Yep.
So I have one.
Who made the motion to come out of closed session?
I have it right here.
And was there a second?
Okay.
Just, the DNR is hosting an informational meeting on the Willow River Dam removal tomorrow evening at the Hudson Town Hall, 6 o'clock, I believe.
Which town hall?
Hudson.
Hudson, okay. Okay, so if that's all, nothing else, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for a good meeting.